All right. Welcome indeed to episode 2 of the Mark Moses Show podcast here on a Tuesday in beautiful Melbourne, Florida. I am broadcasting from home right now, as I've said the last couple of days. Right now at my studios there in West Melbourne, we're doing massive construction. I'm going into a new office. We're going to have a new studio. It's going to be a lot of fun. So for right now, I'm in the home studio, and yes, and I will give them the love. I appreciate all their help. Anidjar and Lavine, accident attorneys. Yes, give them a call today, 1-800-747-3733. That's 1-800-747-FREE. And here's what I'm going to do. I was thinking of guests we could have on today to talk March Madness and his career and his love for all things Brevard County sports. And there's only one guy to get. And he would come on my radio show every Tuesday anyway. He's the great Zlotorzynski. We're going to have a great conversation. Let's bring him on. Here we go. Alan, my man, how you doing today?
Man, doing great, buddy. Congratulations on the jump to this, because it's a whole different world. And it's a fun world. It's a tough world. But if anybody can navigate it, it's you. And we haven't done this since the pandemic.
No, and you know what? I have that saved, I think, on Dropbox, our NFL draft watch party from 2020. I still have it when Tua went to the Dolphins and Herbert. I could go play that if you want to see all our takes that are terrible.
We did a couple of these as well. I can remember the old studio on the other side over there that I had set up that we did a few of these from. But, man, I tell you what, Mark, I feel like for you, if you don't mind me saying, every time I watch a Colin Cowherd or a Pat McAfee or somebody like that, I always say to myself, Mark Moses needs to jump into this realm. And here you are, buddy.
I appreciate the kind words. And before we get into all your picks, because I know you got many of them, I think I first met you because you called into my show. And this was like 2014. You just started calling in talking football. And I know you were doing a lot of like online talk shows at the time. Who was it through exactly? I can't remember.
Well, I was working with the Bleacher Report.
That's right.
And I was actually covering the Ravens at the time, and I was hosting a podcast with Ernest Biner. And then Ernest actually got a television job, and then the Ravens called up and said, would you mind training Tavares Gooden? You remember Tavares Gooden from Miami?
Yeah.
Excuse me. So Tavares stayed on the show with me for about a half a season. And then if you know Tavares Gooden, let's just say he went into the Tavares Gooden world.
That's what he did. And I want to go over this because Alan's the man. If you don't know, he's with Brevard Sports Network. I think everyone in Brevard County knows that, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I think you then started to call in, and I was like, this guy's really good. Then you started doing a weekly segment, like year after that, maybe 2015, and you really started building it up. And I know you went to Space Coast Daily for a couple of years. Then I think you were on 321 Sportscast for a minute.
Yeah, Tracy and I launched 321 Sportscast in 2019. Yeah. And then when the pandemic hit, it was tough to pay two guys off of one. Tracy and I kind of had a different idea of what covering Brevard County sports was. Great guy, and he's doing a great job over there with what he's doing. But I wanted to broadcast and cover Brevard County sports. I wanted to do that at Space Coast Daily too, Mark. Listen, I loved working at Space. I'd probably still be there. I spent 4 years there, and I did news, sports, weather. I did it all over there. And I think, the thing that I wanted to do, what I was born and bred to do, the thing I've always done my entire life was sports, broadcast and cover sports. So when I asked to do that, look, they're a news outlet. They weren't going to tell me yes. And so the bottom line was, if I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do it in a way that modeled after the legendary Barbara Kay would, because if you ask anybody in this town, Mark, anybody, who is the greatest all-time sports reporter in Brevard County? As much as we want to sit here and say it's you, it's me, it's Tim Walters, it's this individual, it's not. The name is Barbara K. Wood, and she was with the Florida Today for years. She was a pioneer in the industry. She was the first woman ever allowed in the press box at Kansas University, and Brevard County was lucky to have her for as long as they did. But if you talk to any coach or student athlete that's born and bred in this county, they will tell you that if you're going to cover local sports, if you don't do it as close to what Barbara K. Wood did, you'll never be successful. So that's what we modeled it against. We took these kids and these coaches, and we really, I guess you could say, brought them in like family, loved all over them, and that's how we were able to build Brevard Sports Network.
That's very cool. So it's 5 years now. Is that right?
April will be 6.
Oh, congratulations, buddy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That really is. And yeah, Alan, for people who've never seen Alan before, let's say you're outside of Brevard County or Central Florida, Alan does a great job where, you'll cover football. You'll do, peewee football, high school football. You'll do semi-pro football. You'll go cover college football games. You talk NFL. I know you love football, but what's great about Alan, I'm giving you your flowers now.
I appreciate it.
You'll go do wrestling and bowling and lacrosse and soccer. When you started that, did you think like, okay, we're going to go cover those sports as well?
Yeah, because the motto for Brevard County or for Brevard Sports Network, if you look under, it says all sports all the time. And I told these guys, Caleb, Jackson, Caleb's been with me from the start.
Yeah.
But anybody that's ever come here, the mantra is all sports. And that means everything from cross country to Friday nights. So if you're not willing to give all sports, I don't care what your passion is for sports. If you can't do it all, you can't be with Brevard Sports Network.
Okay, I'll date myself. When you think of like the 90s with coverage, I think of from the high school or even peewee football. Who are we kidding here? In the 90s, when I was growing up, especially when I was in high school, you'd look at the paper. There'd be like one reporter, like one guy, and he would cover, all right, here's the high school beat for football. You wouldn't really get softball or this other stuff. I think with technology, and this is what you've done a great job with, technology from the standpoint, social media, video streaming, I feel like these athletes are finally getting a platform to show what they got. I think that's really cool, Alan. I hope you do as well.
No, I do. And I tell you, when you and I talked a couple of weeks ago about what was going down and the changes you were going to make, and then when you released the statement, my heart broke because my goal and dream in life, I always wanted to do radio. I was never big on television. I did Spectrum Sports with you for a while, and I was never really big on television. I loved radio because I grew up a radio kid. I listened to sports on radio. I listened to sport. I can remember, the advent of sports talk radio and when it took off and the people I used to listen to growing up, and local guys like Tom Marr in Baltimore and Stan the Fan Charles, and back in the late 70s and 80s, and so it's all I ever wanted to do. So when I walked in at WMEL Studios over here, when John Harper and I walked in, and I said, he didn't know who I was, and I said, I want to be on the radio. I want to host a sports talk show here in Brevard County. And he goes, well, who do you work for? Who the hell are you? And I told him, and we sat down, and the guy's cat came in the office, climbed up on my lap, and it was as if he didn't hear another word I said. 3 minutes later, John Harper, who is a legend, him and his brother Vern are legends in radio, looked right at me and he said, when do you want to start? And I said, really?
What year was this when you did that?
It was 2016, 2017.
You did. And did you do like a weekend?
Yeah, no, I did. I did 5 days a week at WMEL.
Oh.
And I did 5 days a week at MEL, and I did it in the mornings from 11 to 1. Now, the funny story behind this is I had a full-time job. Okay.
This is your job? Did your job know this?
Oh, yes, we're getting to this. So in order, here's the best part.
Now you're laughing.
In order to live out my dream, and at the time, I was married to Gina, and, Gina said to me, go do your dream. You only live once, go do it, right? So we knew that there was a possibility that I could get caught on the radio, right? I did. So my boss calls me into the office and he sits me down and he says, great show yesterday. And I knew immediately what he was talking about. And he goes, now we have a problem, obviously. And I said, yes, we do. And he says, how are we going to handle this? And I said, well, I said, I've really been working. And I wasn't, I'd go do the show. I'd get back in the car and I'd make sure I worked till 6, 7 o'clock every night, right? He goes, company policy says I can't allow this. He goes, but I'm pretty sure I know what you are going to do. And a week later, I met my boss in a parking lot up at Cape Canaveral and turned all my stuff in.
That's what happened. I feel like when you're saying that story, you don't realize you're on the air right now. Like you're just like, whatever. Yeah. Look, I feel like we're getting it all off our chests right now here with Alan Zlotorzynski.
Well, you in order to make the leap, and this all ties into what you're doing. In order to make the leap, sometimes you have to do things that you maybe didn't plan on doing, or things you didn't expect were going to happen. And I don't want to be corny in saying when one door closes, another door opens. But Mark, looking back on all of that occurred to get Brevard Sports Network to this point, which is really what we're discussing, there was a lot of doors that had to be opened and shut.
Oh, I completely understand. I get it. And look, again, for our viewers, I keep saying listeners. I know people
right now. You'll get there.
I will get there. No, Alan's a great friend of mine. And he talked about Gina. Gina works for the city of Melbourne. She does great. And if Gina's watching this, I will help you out with the backpack drive in August again. That was a great event, and we need to do more of that here in the community. Now,
well, Mark, if it's any consolation, I doubt she's watching.
Okay. All right. I'll text her after this. I will.
There you go.
I was going to ask you, how many years now have you done high school football play-by-play here on the
I've done high school football. I started on the radio doing high school football play-by-play. I did it at WMEL.
Yeah.
And so I would say I've been covering very closely Brevard County high school football for 10 years now.
10 years, buddy.
11. 2014 is when it really started.
Can you, off the top of your head, and I'm putting you on the spot, do you remember the first game you called?
I do. It was Cocoa Beach in Orange County, or Orange something or another. It was, I'll never forget it. It was with Orville Susong and Steve Wilson. It was at Cocoa Beach. It was a kickoff classic, and I'll never forget it as long as I live.
That was the first game. That's what it was.
Yeah.
How many teams did you cover last fall for your network for high school football?
We did. We had 5 teams under contract last fall.
Okay.
I shouldn't say contract because we don't actually contract the schools. We have sponsors that want to see the Viera Hawks or the Heritage Panthers every week, so they pay the fees. We never, ever, ever, ever charge the schools directly for anything.
What's it been like covering Cocoa football then, the last 3 years, them winning state titles?
Well, I was blessed to have been able to see John Wilkinson at work for a couple of years at Cocoa football. I actually covered a few of their heartbreaking losses to Booker T in the regional finals before they finally got back there in 2016 and beat Mac Jones and Bowles in the state championship. And it was fun. It was probably one of the biggest shocks in the world that Wilkinson left.
Yeah.
And an even bigger shock, they hired Ryan Schneider because nobody knew who the hell he was.
And now, a couple years later, isn't he the elder statesman for coaches?
He and Chris Sands are the elder statesman. And look, if I had to give you my way too early Brevard County high school football, rankings right now, I'd start the 2025 season off with Chris Sands and O'Galley 1 and Coco 2.
Ooh, you're okay. It's the day after St. Patrick's Day, and you're already giving us your thoughts on who your rankings are for the fall.
First of all, buddy, I'm Polish, so St. Patrick's Day means absolutely nothing to me.
Well, you're admitting it.
Right.
The best way I can describe it, and this is my, covering as well. And I always appreciate you coming on with me, especially the last couple of years talking high school football. The best way I describe it to people who don't live in Brevard, like I'll go to different conferences or I'll go on other people's shows, was that day, I think 2 years ago, where it was like the worlds collide, where there was a recruiting day where Ryan Day with Ohio State was at one of the schools. He didn't want anyone to know, but I think one of the people in the front office took a photo with him. And
They did.
Then you had Mike Norvell. He was at O'Galley in the helicopter. And then who was the other? I think it was Georgia. I think they were showing up as well in the helicopter.
And UCF as well. Yeah, it was Georgia. Yeah. And, here's the thing, and I think you hit on a very good note. I don't think that I could do, or I don't want to say we could do what we do anywhere else in the country. I've lived in Texas, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, Cincinnati. I've lived all over this country, okay? And never, ever have I lived in an area where youth and high school sports mean so much to the community. Yeah, they love their college sports, and yeah, they love their pro sports. But it is here's youth at high school, here's college, and here's pros, and that's how it is in Brevard County. That's exactly how it is.
Okay, all right. I'll counter it. I'll say this. Here's how I look at it around the state of Florida. License plate decals. Okay, so who's got the personalized? Here's what I see around town, and I see it in Port St. Lucie. I go all around. All right, the number one thing I see now, I know they don't make personalized high school license plates, not yet. Gators are the number one personalized license plate I see in Brevard County, where he's got a Gators one. Then I see a UCF one. Then I'll see a little Florida State. I see Magic. I will see Miami Heat, a little Miami Heat. Then Buccaneers. Okay, Buccaneers and Dolphins. Jaguars, if they won 3 games in a row, maybe. I'm telling you, those are the license plates I see around our town. And I want to break this. I'm going to show you the photo. Okay, there is a guy here in Melbourne. I want to put you on the spot and see if you know this.
Okay.
There's a guy in Melbourne. I'm going to get you the photo. He has some old 90s car that looks like it's Dale Earnhardt's car, the number 3. Have you seen this car before? All right.
I have not seen this car. I have seen the Scooby-Doo van.
All right. You've seen the Scooby-Doo. I've seen people at the Jurassic Park, Jeep. I've seen that around Park County. All right. I should have brought this up. Okay. All right. I'm going to do this right here. So you see that?
Where is that? Yeah. Where's that thing at?
I've seen it multiple times around.
I love it.
It is an old 90s. It looks like maybe it's a Pontiac or an Oldsmobile. They put all the stickers on it, Alan, and it looks like Goodyear, and it's a number 3 Dale Earnhardt. Hopefully it's not your car. What are you getting? Okay. What's he getting exactly?
I have one die-cast car, one die-cast NASCAR in my collection, and that's it, buddy.
That's the one you have?
That's the one I have.
Oh, man. You are fantastic. You are. We're here at the Zlotorzynski Brevard Sports Network. He does a great job. You know what? I think putting the photo against the camera screwed up my lens.
There you go. Hello, everybody.
Okay, there we go. I think that helped it out. I think that's what
a lot of times if you just tap the screen, it'll fix itself.
Okay, so we're going to do that. All right, here's how it is.
Yeah.
So we're here at the Zlotorzynski Brevard Sports Network. I had to show you that photo.
No, I dig it. I dig it.
I had to do it. Okay. Do you want to get to March Madness? Well,
You said, you told me you had a capital story for me too. What capital story?
You want the capital story?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I've got to do a March Madness show tomorrow night, and so I've been studying my butt off on this stuff. But I'm interested in what your capital story is.
Okay, here's the capital story. So a couple weeks ago, this is it just breaks my heart, but I have to tell the story. It's the stupidest thing. So I was visiting my parents, and on the way back, I stopped in Fort Pierce, Florida. And there was one store I went into, and it wasn't the Lion's Den, if that's what you're wondering. I know that's a big sign there. No, it wasn't that.
By God, Mark, what is the Lion's Den? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Exit 129.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So there was a Goodwill they just built. So I was like, whatever. I was looking at some stores. I went in there. They had for $2. It was in there. I didn't buy it. And I said, I should have bought that for Alan. And I feel bad the last couple of weeks. I was like, I got to go back to Fort Pierce. I got to buy it for you.
Bro.
You already might have it.
What was it? What was it again?
It was a Blu-ray of the championship video for your Washington Capitals winning the Stanley Cup.
Well, save your $2, brother. I don't have a DVD player.
I looked at that Blu-ray and I thought, there is no way anyone owns this. It's here at this Goodwill in Fort Pierce, and maybe Alan owns it. No one else in the state of Florida has it. There's no way.
No way. You're absolutely right. I save your money.
Yeah, that was the story I wanted to tell you.
Okay.
That's what it was. So the next time I see it, I'm going to buy it for you.
Okay.
You're worth $2, my friend.
Listen, you and I have, outside of this stuff, we've had some fun. So yes, I appreciate that.
Okay. Here is the bracket, right?
Yeah.
Here it is right there. Have you filled out your bracket?
No, I haven't, but I'm getting close. And the closer I get, the more and more and more when I look at all of listen, I mean, the SEC is as dominant as any conference I've ever seen in a season, and maybe in my lifetime. Now, I remember the last time. I don't know about you. I don't know if you've ever watched this on YouTube, but I was 14 years old in 1984 when the Big East sent St. John's, Villanova, and Georgetown to the Final Four. The team that was in there that wasn't from the Big East was Memphis, that went to the Final Four. And that was the year that the hopped up on cocaine Villanova Wildcats, if you've ever seen that 30 for 30, defeated Georgetown for the national championship that year. It was also the last year that they didn't have the shot, they didn't have a shot clock that year. But those were some of those Big East and some ACC conferences I've seen growing up were simply dominant. But Mark, this SEC conference is incredible. And it's hard to imagine that you get to the Final Four and you look at this and you go, Florida is playing some of the best basketball, maybe the best basketball in the country, right? Do you buy into the fact that, no team has won a national championship in 14 years, losing their final 2 games of the year the way Auburn has? Has the schedule finally burnt Auburn up? Are they finally done? These are all things you need to consider. And then you look at a team like Michigan State with Tom Izzo, right? And St. John's with Rick Pitino. And you look at these guys and you go, all these guys do in this tournament is make it to Elite Eights and Final Fours. So, so when I look at this and I go, well, I love Duke. I mean, I don't care if the greatest thing since sliced bread plays Friday night. It does not matter if he plays. You saw what they did in the ACC championship game without, I'm talking about Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they got 4 freshmen on that team that are, this may be, honestly, I've seen some great Duke teams, and that Fab 5 team of Michigan was really, really good. But if this Duke team goes on to win the national championship, man, they're going to be in some conversations, Mark. They are.
Okay.
But go ahead.
What I was going to tell you is, I will admit this. It's been a little stressful the last couple weeks, so I've been getting up at like I go to sleep. I get up at 3 a.m. Then my mind's going, so I start watching TV. I rewatched the 30 for 30 on Jimmy V and the NC State team from 83.
83, yeah.
And you look at the okay, they had to win, what was it, 4 or 5 games in the ACC tournament.
And they were terrible that year. Terrible.
Yeah, terrible. They win the ACC tournament for the chance to go to the NCAA tournament, then win 6 more games. They won like 10 or 11 games in a row just to win the national title. My question for you is, you watch that documentary, so many famous players, so many, Ralph Sampson, Michael Jordan, James Worthy. You could go on and on, especially in the ACC. Yeah. And it just feels like, this is where I feel like I'm an old man. College basketball used to mean more to me from the standpoint all the players played college basketball, then they went to the NBA. I don't have that connection now. And I agree with you. Duke's a great team, all freshmen. Gators are an awesome team as well. But I don't have that connection with because there's not these superstars. Do you feel that way?
I did feel that way. And I have. Yes, I agree. Yes. To answer your question, yes. But I'm going to tell you, this year's tournament's a little bit different. Okay. And I'm going to say, because to me, this is really the first year where you look at the transfer portal, right? Aniwa Tate Jones from UC Santa Barbara. This is a guy who is probably playing in the Big Ten or playing in, the SEC, but because of the way the transfer portal is and the one and dones and how recruiting has changed, you get a guy like this that has to go play at UC San Diego. So University of California, San Diego State, whatever it's called. But, this guy is a tremendous player. I love the players in this tournament, and they're spread out. I mean, you've got great players all over this tournament. The other thing that intrigues me about this tournament is what will the SEC do to see 14 teams. They just didn't blow the Big East record away of 11. They demolished it, Mark. And from a selfish standpoint, if Florida wins and Maryland wins, my Sweet 16 matchup is Florida and Maryland.
And that makes you happy.
I'm excited about that prospect, but I am excited to watch what I think is going to be the most balanced NCAA tournament we have seen maybe ever. And it wouldn't shock me if a 13-14 and a 15 won in this tournament. It would not shock me.
Look, it happens every year now. Year you're like, I watched this sport for 5 months. I think I know what I'm talking about. I think I know. And then they just start happening. The upsets.
I did it different this year, Mark. Okay. I didn't watch any college basketball until February.
That makes sense. After football.
I didn't do it because, I kept my eye. I had my eye on Maryland. I watched a couple Maryland games. I really like, Derek Queen. I like what the Terps are doing. But I started really watching. I watched a lot of Florida Gator basketball at the end. To me, and I'm not just saying this to stroke, Florida Gator fans, but I don't think there's a better team going into the tournament right now than Florida. I mean, three guard offense. And you look at the way that Walter Clayton Jr. is playing and who he has as a supporting cast. I mean, on Saturday, Alabama's the highest scoring team in the country, and Florida showed them what scoring was all about. They had 6 players in double digits on Saturday. That's unheard. defense this time of the year. Florida puts up over 100. I don't think there's anybody better than the Gators right now.
Look, every game in the SEC tournament, they won by double digits. And all those teams are ranked. All those teams are in the tournament. They beat Tennessee twice out of 3 chances. They beat Bama twice in about 2 weeks. They're better than Auburn. They beat Auburn.
Right. And Duke.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They didn't beat Duke. My apologies.
Okay.
I'm thinking of Auburn, but Auburn that beat Duke. But, this thing is such a marathon and not a sprint. Now it's a sprint.
Yeah.
Now it's a sprint because you got to go win 6. And that's why I say John Shire shouldn't play Cooper Flagg. You don't need Cooper Flagg in the first game. Make sure that guy is healthy. He's the number 1 overall pick coming up in the NBA. And the amount of players you see, Janiah Broome from Auburn, outstanding talent. But he may not even be a first-round NBA draft pick. You know what I'm saying? It is spread out so much. I mean, you look at, like, I got them written down, like a VJ Edgecombe, a Trey Johnson, a Jeremiah, Jace Richardson. You want to talk about feeling old? I can remember Jace Richardson's father playing for Tom Izzo 25 years ago. I remember watching him play.
I know. Yeah, it's like Ron Harper Jr. on, I think it's Rutgers. He'll be the 2nd pick in the draft. You're right, dude.
But when you look at this thing, when you look at this bracket, and I don't mean to be chalky about it, and I do think there's going to be upsets early. I do think, to give you my Final Four, I'm going to go with Izzo and Michigan State in the South. And I see a 1-2 West final between Florida and St. John's.
Ooh. You think think about everyone in the state of Florida will be going for the Gators, but all the New York transplants in Florida will also be going for St. John's.
Well, not just the New York transplants, but so will the old school college basketball guys that want to see. I mean, Rick, this is his 6th team he's taken to the NCAA tournament. No coach has ever done that.
Dude, they've not won. You think about this with St. John's. They've not won a conference championship regular season like in 4 decades. Since
the guy is a miracle worker, man. And then you go in the East and listen. I mean, Alabama, but after what Florida did to Alabama, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up. Now, the thing that scares me with Duke is the fact that they are so young, Mark.
Yeah.
They run into a team like Baylor in the 2nd round. Baylor's capable of beating them. They can, especially if Flagg's not 100%. Then you get Shaka Smart down there at VCU, who's an 11 seed. Shaka's known for pulling upsets. So, but I think in the end, it's Duke and those 4 fantastic freshmen. I don't see Houston. I mean, I know Houston's making, does this, but I don't see Houston there. I really like Tennessee's defense. I don't think Tennessee's going to face anybody in this bracket that plays offense like they faced in the SEC. I think what a lot of SEC teams are going to find out in this tournament is, are they as good as the rest of the country is saying, or were they just average and beat up on each other this year?
That's a great question. You going back to the point with the 14 teams, the record, I look at it this way. Like, you should be proud if you're the conference. I think you should be embarrassed if you're the Big Ten or the ACC. Yeah. What are you doing? What is this? Look, I saw the Gators play Oklahoma. Oklahoma's not a good basketball team, but they're who didn't make it? South Carolina and Vandy, and then everyone else did?
Who'd you say? South Carolina and who?
And Vandy? Is that
Vandy made it.
Who?
I don't even know who. Missouri's in, Vanderbilt's in,
everyone's in.
Yeah, 14 to 16 are in. Texas is a play-in team.
Yeah.
But look, you look at this Midwest. This is the most wide open bracket there. Tennessee can come out of this Midwest. They can. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country. But I'm going to tell you, I like Kentucky too.
All right. I want to go over this with you, Alan Zlotorzynski. Let's go to the Gators. I just want to go this path for you.
Okay.
All right. So the Gators are going to play, and I have this written down. They're going to play Friday night, and that game is 6:50. So, okay, ballpark. It'll probably be 7, and that's going to be on TNT. All right. So they have Norfolk State from Virginia. So that's a 1 versus 16. They're not going to be like Virginia. They're not going to lose a 1 versus 16. They're going to win that game.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, they're going to win. Then you have the potential for UConn and Oklahoma. And this is not UConn from the last couple of years, but it'll be interesting. I mean, just the pedigree. I think they're going to the Sweet 16. Lock it. I'm completely in. You have that as well.
Yeah.
And do you see, I mean, potentially, let's say you get through UConn, Oklahoma, then you would potentially play these 4 teams: Memphis, Colorado State, Maryland, or Grand Canyon.
Well, I think I think Maryland and I like Colorado State to beat Memphis in that opening round game. So you got Maryland and Colorado State. I like the Terps play great defensive basketball. They got one of the best players in college basketball in Derek Green. I think the Terps are there. I think that's going to be probably one of the best Sweet 16 games, if not the best Sweet 16 game. And look, if the Terps can beat Florida in that game, oh boy, then it's a 4 and a 2 between the Terps and St. John's, right? I mean, in my opinion, in the finals, because I don't like Missouri, Drake. I mean, Texas Tech. I mean, a lot of people are kind of in on them, but I pick Texas Tech every year, and all the Red Raiders ever do is break my damn heart.
Okay, here's how I look at it. You get just if you're looking at math, all right, you look at a matchup. Who's playing? The 7th best team in the Big Ten, who barely got the 20 wins. Who are they taking on? The best team, the conference champion from a mid-major, who's won 29, 30 games against, I always think of like a Purdue where they won 20 games. Those are the games you got to watch out for. You got to do your research. Like, hey, are these teams for real? And it's the great equalizer of all sports. It's a neutral site game. And you don't know what time. Look, you might be used to playing. Hey, we usually play in college basketball. You play Tuesday, Wednesday, or Saturday. That's usually what you do. You always play at 7, 8 o'clock at night. Well, now what? We're going to play Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern there in Orlando, Florida. What? That's where you never know. And you've been to Orlando for tournament games, haven't you?
2 of them. Yeah, 2 different tournaments we went over there for. And they're fantastic. And you see tremendous upsets. I will tell you, the only thing I don't like now is you got teams from all regions. Like Florida's in Raleigh. In the old days, they used to, if you were in the West bracket, you started West, you played West.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so I'll go over this with you. We're here with Alan Zlotorzynski. I appreciate coming on with me.
Oh, I'm having a blast, man.
Okay, some of my favorite teams for the tournament. I'll say it, then you got to say it.
All right.
Okay. One of the teams I covered, it still breaks my heart. I covered those 2 years in Creighton University with Doug McDermott. And 1 year we lost to Duke. The next year we lost to Carolina. Doug McDermott was player of the year. I saw him drop 41 points in the regular season finale against Wichita State. Okay, so think about this. I'm in Omaha, Nebraska, covering Creighton. That was my team. I was the pre- and post-game guy and executive producer of the broadcast. Okay.
Wow.
So I sat courtside, and I miss it all. I miss that so much. So I didn't think at the time, okay, they beat Wichita State. Then they go to, I think it's St. Louis. This is before they went to the Big East. So this one they're in the, was it the Missouri Valley? I think that's what it was.
Yeah, yes, it was.
Okay, so they win. They win the conference tournament. Wichita State is like the runner-up. That's what happens.
Uh-huh.
I never thought, not in 10 million years, Alan, that Wichita State would make the Final Four. And that is an incredible – that was incredible where And Van Vliet's on that team, plays for the Rockets. I'm going to go to that game tomorrow, Rockets and Magic. They had Baker. That team was awesome. That's one of the only times, even though they were a rival of me, I was really upset when they lost that. I think they lost to Kentucky in the semifinal. I'll tell you that story. The other one, so when I was in Virginia, I don't know if I've ever told you this before. So on our afternoon statewide show, I was on with Mac McDonald, who still does radio in Virginia. He lives in Orlando now. I know it's a small world. So we were in Charlottesville, Richmond. We were in a couple markets. We had the coach every week. He's like, hey, let's get this guy on. This is 2011. Let's get the coach of VCU on. So we were the only station that had on Shaka Smart.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm not kidding around. I talked to coach every week during that season, and they went to the first four, which I know starts tonight in Dayton.
Yeah.
And this might have been one of the first years they did it. They kept winning. They kept winning. They kept winning. And one of my favorite stories, and this sounds like a Disney movie, they got to the Elite Eight, and I think they took on Kansas, and they took on the Morris twins, who both went to the NBA.
Yes.
I mean, this is out of all these sports movies we love. They meet them at half court before tip-off, and those Morris twins look at VCU and go, you've had a nice run, but it comes to an end today. And VCU won. I love that team. The other one, I've said this to you. I have a special. I have a couple hidden. Don't tell this to the women of Brevard County.
No, of course not.
I have a couple hidden bank account. Like you have your emergency money. Rainy day money. I have saved money, Alan. If my school ever makes the tournament, they've been around since 1899. Western Illinois University. If they ever make the tournament, I am going. I've told this to the president of the school. I've told this to the athletic director. I know they've never been good. If they ever make the tournament, I don't care if I'm going to Dayton, Ohio, I'm going to that tournament game. That's a guarantee and a promise.
I don't blame you. Would love to go to an NCAA final. My biggest heartbreak in the NCAA tournament came in 2000, and it's still to this day the largest deficit ever overcome to win an NCAA tournament game. And it was in the Final Four when Maryland had Duke by 23 points, and Duke came back and beat us by 11.
Okay. Let me see if I can do this with Alan. What team is that? Juan Dixon and Steve Blake?
Juan Dixon, Steve Blake, Gary Williams, and then
you win after that.
In 2001 we beat Indiana to win the national championship. But that game, and you knew it. You absolutely knew it, because I'm going to take you back. It's also the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl, right? So I'm going to take you back.
It never ends.
The night before the Super Bowl, I went to see Maryland play Duke at Old Cole Fieldhouse, right? Great seats. Maryland led by 12 with over a minute to go. You can watch this game on YouTube. It happens the night before the Super Bowl. And Duke came back and beat them. And in the Final Four, I knew to shut my mouth when Maryland was up by 23, because I knew it wasn't enough. I knew it wasn't.
That was okay. Your coach, Gary Williams?
Gary Williams, yes.
Yeah, that was a great team.
So another great one to me was in 2006 with Jim Larinaga when George Mason beat Connecticut in overtime and the DC regional final to go on to the Final Four. Now, they would win the national championship, but Jim Larinaga, great dude. And, they beat Connecticut 86-84 in overtime. Great bat. But what a great run by an 11 seed George Mason was.
Okay, the one, if we're going over the best of the March Madness, which starts tonight with the first four. Okay, I don't believe in magic. I don't believe in that. Like, I love sci-fi. I love horror. I know magic is not real. Maybe it is. I think that game with Butler and Duke, and I know John Shire, I think he was on that team. He might have been.
He was.
Gordon Hayward threw up the half-court shot at the buzzer. If that shot would have gone in for the national title, I thought my TV was going to explode. I don't think anything would have been crazier than that.
Real quick, you brought up the 83 NC State team. One of the best sports days of my kid life, real quick, and I just want to tell this story. My mother kept us out of school that day because it was opening day for the Orioles. So me, my sister, and my mother went to opening day together. I don't remember if the Orioles won, but I do remember. It was 1983, so they could have. They won the World Series that year. So it was that night when the NCAA tournament came on. I was 13 years old. My bedtime was 11 o'clock. TV off. Go to bed. And I can remember my mother coming in and she said, it's 11 o'clock. And I said, Mom, look. And my mom sat on the edge of my mom didn't know more about college basketball than the man in the moon. But my mom sat there and watched the last 4 minutes of that game. And when that shot or pass or whatever you want to call it went up and he grabbed it and stuffed it in the thing, my mother jumped off the bed. And you would have thought she was Jimmy Valvano. And she didn't know anything at all about college basketball or NC State. Didn't care, but that moment captivated her. And that's what March Madness is about. My mother died when she was 52 and spent 4 minutes of her life watching the NCAA tournament, and she got that reaction from it.
That's a really cool story. I know your mom was a nice lady.
Yeah.
There's this feeling, like the thing with March Madness is everyone gets a chance. Even though realistically, look, David's not going to beat Goliath in that title game. I hope they do one day. But I like that. I kind of feel like that with the Super Bowl as well. A region of the country gets represented. So like the Gators, everyone in Florida, hey, that's one of our state schools. They're going to be on national TV. And go to hell, Oakland. I'm sorry, go to hell, Oklahoma or North Carolina. Hey, this is the Gator pride. That's what I like about it.
And especially for Florida this year, because they're carrying the entire state. Mark, there's no FIU this year. They're the only basketball team from the state of Florida playing in the NCAA tournament. The men's tournament.
That is embarrassing. Where
it is.
Well, look, I get it. Florida State, Miami, both coaches stepped down. They don't want to do NIL. They're both in their 70s. I get it.
Right.
They make new hires. Florida Atlantic, I thought they could build on going to the Final Four, and they didn't. We have 22 million people. It feels like we have 900 universities. One team made the tournament. One. I don't get it.
And guess what, buddy? College football wasn't much better.
No, it was. Hey, I joke with people all the time who don't live in Florida. We're a hockey state. We're hockey. But we don't have ice. We don't have snow. But we
Past 3 Stanley Cup.
Yeah. All these teams in Canada, you won whatever that was, the Frozen Four, whatever that was. They just won.
Yeah, right.
The Stanley Cup is in Fort Lauderdale on the beach with all those beautiful women. Okay.
That sure is, yes.
We are a hockey state. We're not good at baseball. We're not good at football. We are good at hockey. The other one, now you got me going here. The one that really upsets me, really to this day, it's been 20 years. Okay, so I grew up, everyone knows where I grew up. One of my favorite, I love DePaul. I would root for, my school, Western Illinois. Those are the teams. UIC was never good, but, I root for them, the Flames. There's a couple teams. Northwestern, I was literally born at Evanston Hospital, a block from the football and basketball stadium. So I always root for Northwestern when I can.
Sure.
They're also never, I can get into that in a minute. Illinois losing in 2005 in the title game. That's one of the hardest ones to swallow because North Carolina had no business winning that game. That was one of the great, you could do a list on this. One of the great teams to never win the title. I mean, you think them, the Fab Five with Michigan, they never won.
Timeout.
I'm trying to think. I mean, look, those Butler teams with Brad Stevens went to back-to-back title games and didn't win. I mean, they're still great, But there's some of these. It's just hard.
Gonzaga has never won
No.
26 straight tournaments for Mark Few, and he's never won one.
No, and he's had some great. That team with Jalen Suggs.
Yeah,
that was a great team. That was.
Yes, it was.
Some of the other teams. Oh, go on.
I was going to say, you mentioned Illinois. By the way, real quick, I always loved Raleigh Massimino as a kid growing up. I always thought he looked like the Penguin, but I don't think people understand. At that bowl game this year, Cheez-Its Bowl, it hit me. You were into that game. You were into that game because it was Illinois.
Let me tell you something. In the state of Florida, and as I call it, the great state of Florida, there are a couple Illinois fans. One's my dad. He loves the Fighting Illini, right?
Right.
Even when they're 2-11 in football. And my aunt and uncle who live in Lakeland, they're both alumni from there, love Illinois. So that was cool to see. That was one of those moments. See, that game, I've told you this for a couple weeks now, but I'll say it for our viewers. That's why the bowl system still matters for schools like Illinois. They're not going to playoff. That's their Super Bowl. And they did not win a bowl game in 30 years. To win a bowl game was a big, maybe if you're Bama, it's not, but to those schools, it matters.
Yeah.
It was. So that's why it was. The other teams I like those UConn teams from the late 90s with Rip Hamilton and Khalid Al-Amim, and those teams were awesome.
Listen, and those teams would always sneak up on you. Like UConn would win a national championship under Jim Calhoun, and then they would disappear for 2 years, and then here they are again going 30-2 and back in the national championship. Duke always, I hated Duke. God, I hated them. But watching them beat UNLV that year,
dude,
that was crazy.
I've told you the story. This whole thing is turning into story time with Uncle Mark.
That's okay. I'm enjoying it.
I love sports, and when I went to our buddy Anthony Knockreiner's wedding there in October, I flew to Raleigh. And when I came back, I drove across the state to get to that wedding. And if Anthony's watching, I was not going to miss that wedding, buddy. And I don't care if a hurricane was hitting, I'm not missing that wedding. And I went there. Okay. So on the way back, I had 60 minutes before I had to get back to that airport Sunday morning. And I drove to it's been a long day. The town, Durham. I took that. I had a Toyota 4Runner, which, by the way, I like driving.
Yeah.
I drove to that campus. I parked the car. I paid the $2 for parking on a Sunday morning. I saw the lacrosse stadium, and that was weird to see with all that controversy from 20 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. I saw the football stadium. It's like in a pit. It's in the ground. So you go down. And then I had to see it, buddy. You drove on Coach.
You got to.
Dude, it looks like the best way to describe it for local, it's smaller than Melbourne High School's gymnasium. I mean, I'm like, what the hell is this?
Well, listen, I lived in Maiden for 7 years. I've told you this 1,000 times. I've been to see 3 basketball games at Cameron Indoor Stadium, Coach K Court. It wasn't Coach K Court. I saw him play the Terps there twice. Okay, and I was very fortunate to have had a friend of mine down there who was very influential in the furniture business, and I got to go see Duke play North Carolina.
That dude, you talk about an expensive ticket.
All right, and we sat. Now, listen, you could tell somebody we sat up in the rafters, but to sit up in the rafters at Coach K Court means nothing because there really is none. Okay, yeah. I mean, you're still looking right on the court, right? But it is an experience like no other. And that includes in the swamp on a Saturday night against LSU. It's terrific. And you did the right thing by doing that. It was great.
Here's the photo in front of the sign at Duke. And that was the day. I'll remember this till the end of time. I woke up in Wilmington, North Carolina. I drove the 2 hours back to Raleigh. I was in Durham. I took my photo. I saw the kids in Krzyzewskiville in the sleeping bags.
That's cool.
Saw them. got back in the car, returned my car, then went to and look, I was in such a hurry, I forgot to refill the gas tank. And I'm like, oh no, am I in trouble? She's like, don't worry about it. So sometimes I get perks. Go to the airport. They told me that morning, all right, it's a 2-hour flight back to Orlando. They're like, I'm sorry, we can't do that. I flew to New York City. I was in New York City. I was at JFK Airport for an hour. I was there. Yankee stuff everywhere. Everywhere.
Sure. Absolutely. Okay. The thing about Durham that's really neat is that you literally drive 5 miles. And Durham's got a city, a mall, all of it. I mean, it's not a podunk town. It's a nice little size city, okay? But when you drive out of Durham and Chapel Hill, they sit next to each other, and there is a very, very, very distinct difference if you're eating lunch in Durham or you're eating lunch in Chapel Hill, because you know where you are.
Yeah, it's called the Triangle because it's got
correct.
It's Duke, North Carolina, NC State, and Wake Forest.
Correct.
Right? I know you think it should be a square, but they call it the Triangle.
Right.
So, I'm in New York. I'm there for an hour. Then I get back on the plane. I think I was JetBlue, so they gave me live television.
Oh, nice.
No. That was the Bears-Commanders game.
That's why you didn't return my text.
Oh, yeah, so I'm on the airplane watching a horrible football game. It was the game of the week. Horrible football game until the last 3 minutes. The Bears scored 2 touchdowns. And I get off with 2 minutes at the 2-minute warning. I'm like, get me off this plane. I don't want to miss this. So I get off at Terminal C, and I go like, I'm seriously, Alan. First off, I've never been to Terminal C. I'm like, where am I? Because I've been, I go to the Orlando airport all the time. I go, where is this? Did I land in Tampa? Where am I exactly? So I had to ask people, how do you get to the train to get back to the terminal? I don't know. So the Bears score with like 30 seconds to go.
Right.
So on this phone, okay, and there are a lot of famous people saved on this phone. No one's allowed to touch this. I'm not kidding. The Bears score to take the lead. I was bombarded with text messages. Congratulations, Mark. Like I had a baby. Like my wife had a baby at the
great job.
Great job, Mark. You're awesome. You're great. And I remember I'm about to get on that train. And he throws that ball. And I saw it got tipped. And I knew right away what was going to happen. I knew. And I will remember that till the end of time. I was at the Terminal C at the Orlando airport. And they will show that play for the next 100 years.
I know you got one text after that, and it said, I'm sorry, buddy. I know that's the one I sent.
Okay, here's the story. I have not 1, 2 friends who are Washington Commanders fans named Jonathan who will text me, hey, how about that Hail Mary play? And I'll write back, Alan, the Eagles just scored again on Championship Sunday. That's all I got.
That's all you got to say.
All right, before I let you go.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is not a one-offer here. Alan's going to join me moving forward.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. What is your final 4? Who are you?
All right, I've been thinking about this, so I'm going to go Duke. I'm going to go Michigan State. Sure. Okay. I'm going to go Florida, and I'm going to go Tennessee. I'll go Tennessee down there.
Who is your national title champion, or do you have? Or are you just going to stick with your final 4 for now?
No. You know what? I've said it. I'll say it. I'll pick the Florida Gators to win the national championship.
Did you go? You went to Orlando for like first round games. You saw the Gators, right?
Oh yeah. I've seen the Gators 2 times over there.
Did you see them? Were they there in 14, the Final Four team? Is that when you
in 2018? Yes, I did.
Okay, so not 14. Look,
no.
If I'm going to add one more to teams that should have won the national title, the 2014 team that lost 3 games, the Billy Donovan team, the last team to win the SEC tournament. I love that team. Patrick Young, Shioza, and they lost it. They lost twice to UConn.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they provided one of the greatest games ever. Wasn't that the year that they hit the shot at the buzzer to beat Wisconsin?
No, I think that was I got to remember. Maybe. You know
Okay.
what? Now you're putting me on this. I don't think so, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great game.
So it starts tonight. Then Thursday, are you just nothing on
I'm
the
done.
schedule?
I got nothing on the schedule this week. I think we have a Vera baseball game we have to do later this week, but spring break week, and Allen and Brevard Sports Network we're announcing our basketball and probably our soccer players of the year, but that's it. That's all that's going to. And I don't know if you've had time to set one up. If you do, I'll join it. But jump in our bracket challenge: $100 for first, $50 for second, and a gift card to a local restaurant for third.
All right, I could go 3 hours with you. I'm not
we
kidding
could.
around. I could. Before I let you go, and we'll end this broadcast. Yes, Anidjar and Lavine, Accident Attorneys, studio sponsor. Even though we're at home, we're working on it. If I showed you our offices, it's like a bomb went off. Okay, we're working on it. Right? Give them a call, 1-800-747-3733. Alan, this was awesome. We need to do it again. Yeah, and have a great night. All right.
Take care, my friend.
All right, we're gonna let Alan go. Yes, he was awesome. I like this. This is fun. We're gonna have more great conversations moving forward. We are. Have a great night. I know first 4 games are coming up. Big dance is coming up Thursday. I'm going to do a earlier show tomorrow, and then I'm going to go cover the Magic game as they're going to take on the Houston Rockets there at the Kia Center. So have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow. This has been episode 2 of the Mark Moses Show.